Hello and welcome to Mandobug Crafts, episode 77. What's up everybody? My name is Amanda, but you may know me on the internet as Mandobug. This is my crafty podcast video blog channel where I talk about the things that I'm making. I'm coming to you today from Buckley, Washington, where I live and where I'm from. I live with my husband and 2 kids, and let's start the shot with something I've learned. So this week I'm actually so it's been 2 weeks since I've recorded. So this is actually over the last 2 weeks, and hopefully this episode doesn't run super long because I've been casting on all the things and it's been crazy. So this week I've stepped into crocheting socks. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I started crocheting when I was really young. I started out at 9, and so it's what I feel the most comfortable doing. But 4 years ago now, I think, I learned to knit. And once I learned to knit, I didn't crochet much because I was just enthralled in the whole idea of learning about knitting and learning more. And it served me well so far because what I've learned this week is kind of mixing the two in a sense, which I'll get more into later. But I learned to knit socks before I learned to crochet socks. So I am learning to crochet socks. I picked up the latest Interweave Crochet magazine, which I'm not really a magazine buyer. I like to thumb through them and look at them and they're pretty, but I usually don't pick them up just because I'm not always inspired by what's in the magazine. But this is a great issue. This is the fall 2017, so it's the brand new Interweave Crochet, and it's all about crochet cables, and not just one kind. Like on the front it says 9 kinds of cables. It's not kidding. There are a ton of cables. And this isn't just like, oh, a different cable pattern. No, this is also different ways to achieve cables using crochet techniques, including a brand new technique that Perez has made up. I'm pretty sure, I'm sure she did her research before she said it was new, that no one else has done anything like this before. So, I'll show you the 2 projects that I've started. I meant to only start one, but you'll see why this happened. So I've started these socks right here. These are the Birch cable socks, and they are just absolutely lovely. I was like, you know what? No. If I'm going to crochet socks, it's going to be these ones. And then right next to the same page is this hat. And this hat uses that live loop crochet that I was talking about, which is a brand new crochet cable method, which I'll talk about a little more after I talk about the socks. So this magazine is worth these 2 patterns alone, which this hat, there's an entire article on the live loop crochet method that's separate from the pattern, which is worth having on its own as well. And so this whole magazine was only $7.99, and I got 2 amazing crochet patterns that I've already started. Plus, there's this gorgeous cabled sweater on the front, and there's some other patterns in here as well. So this one's worth it, guys. Really, I really think it is. So my socks. I've started the Birch cable socks using a 2.5mm crochet hook, and this is Haiku Kobasi, which is a cotton bamboo silk blend. I've talked about it before because I'm designing a tank top out of the yarn. Well, I haven't gotten to use it yet, but it will be in the design. But this is actually my first time working with this yarn, and it's very, very nice. So I can't tell if I think it's 2 parts. Part 1 being that this crochet pattern is very thoughtful. She put thought into each stitch and how she wanted it to behave in a sock. As well as this yarn is nice and I want to say forgiving, but that's not the right word. It's stretchy. It's stretchy, and that's what you want in socks. And that silk content is going to make these really durable. So if I get up close, you can see there's this really nice cable down the front, and then there's this smaller cable that runs down the side. Because the magazine is paid for, it's a paid for pattern, but I can give you kind of some details about it without completely giving it away. Trust me, based off what I'm going to say, you won't be able to just do this. But the cuff is worked flat and joined, and it's that where you work through the back loop with crochet, it will give you a stretchier fabric. So that's great. The cuff fits over my heels. So then when I got down to the cables, I was like, okay, is this going to tighten everything up and make it difficult to get over my heels? But it's not at all. And she actually uses an extended single crochet for the body of the sock. So I don't know if I've talked about that on the podcast before, but an extended single crochet is almost like a single crochet foundation. Just the way that it's worked. If you crochet, you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, that might just sound confusing. But instead of doing just a plain single crochet, before you pull yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook, you're doing like an extra chain 1 in that first loop. And it just gives it a little bit extra height, extended single crochet. And that makes a really nice fabric for the body of the sock. It's not as dense as single crochet, and it's not as open as a half double crochet. So I've really liked that. And she has really put a lot of thought into the cables. I mean, which stitch you use is determined by how far you're cabling across. And she actually doesn't have you working into the backs of the stitches that you're cabling across. I've only ever done one other cabled crochet pattern, and this was back before I podcasted. It's an owl hat. It's a little crocheted hat. It's got owls along the bottom. And that was my first time doing cables, and in that pattern you did work into the stitches that you skipped when you cabled, which makes it really like thick. But she has cleverly found a way to, or well, utilized a way to be able to skip those stitches when you're cabling and not have holes, because if you look at the inside, there's no holes, even though you've skipped stitches. So this is just, it's an amazing, I can't speak more highly of this pattern. It's amazing. If you're going to crochet socks, this is the kind of pattern you want. This is the kind of yarn you want. It's just, I'm just having a lot of fun, and I'm learning a lot. So I always enjoy when I'm learning something new. And so as I was working on this sock, while I mentioned it, I have started the second one because I realized if I crochet this whole sock, I'll never make a second one. So I'm kind of working on two around the same time. I just don't want to completely finish one before the other. But yeah, while I was working on that sock, I just kept seeing that hat right next to it. I'm like, oh geez, I want to try the hat. The hat is really cool because it looks like it's got knitted cables, but it's a crochet hat. So I'm like, I want to know how to do this. So the live loop crochet method, you are literally creating knit stitches, but with your crochet hook, but only on some stitches. So far, I'll show you what I have. Whoops. I just have the brim, and you can see, like, what is this? This is just a mess. It looks like more of a mess than it really is. But, so, real quick, the yarn is Malabrigo Rios in the Marti or Marte, I'm not sure how you say that, colorway. It's one of my favorite colorways that Malabrigo has. I believe Lindsay, my friend Lindsay gifted me this yarn for a holiday or my birthday or something. And so I'm like, this is perfect. I love this color. I would love a hat. Not sure it's the best for cables because it is so dark, but we'll see. So to do this, the brim was a really, really cool, and I'll try to get close because it's not a very wide brim. The brim was a very, very cool stitch pattern that I've never used before with crochet. If you look at it, it kind of looks like a knit 2 purl 2 rib, even though it's crochet. And she's got a nice little technique that includes half double crochets through the back loop and slipping stitches. So that's really, really pretty, and it wasn't too terribly difficult to do. It is stretchier than regular crochet, but it's not as stretchy as a knit 2 purl 2 rib. So there is that, but it does look pretty. And then I have to have live stitches on my hook, so I just have to keep it there. So basically what you're doing is you're going to crochet a couple stitches, and then you're going to pick up loops and put them on your hook live, and then you're going to end up putting those on some sort of holder. So you could use a cable needle. She recommended bobby pins. I didn't have this many cable needles. I didn't have enough bobby pins, but I had paper clips. So I'm keeping all of my live loop cables on paper clips. But the concept is really cool. You are just delaying the completion of stitches until later. And then when you get to them, you are picking up a loop as if you were knitting, but with a crochet hook. I will say, this has been very tedious. I mean, you can see how it looks. It's much slower than knitting for me. And I'm very curious to see how the finished hat turns out with the texture and fit. Just because it would be really easy to replicate this hat using just a plain knit pattern, and so if I had the option, I would just knit the hat instead of do this. So unless there's something that is unique and special about this method. But the concept is what's blowing my mind, and the concept is what's really cool. I think she's adventuring into a really fun area. And from what I've read, I think she's working on a book that utilizes nothing but these live loop cable crochets, or crochet cables. And I will say, when I first did this pattern, the written instructions confused me a little bit. So my cables were getting wider and wider. I didn't really see anywhere that said your cables will always be 3 stitches wide, and some of the techniques I was getting extra loops that I was supposed to be closing off, and I just didn't realize it the way that it was written. And so I kept going, and I had 3 and then 5 and then 7, and I'm like, something's wrong. So I had to rip it all back, and I actually went to Sue Perez's blog. I think it's Mrs. Macabre or something like that. I'll link to it in my show notes, which you can find in the description box below. But she had a great video tutorial on the live loop crochet method, and that's when I was like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm a very visual person. Sometimes I can teach myself out of a book, but I can definitely teach myself from a video. So that was very helpful. And so if you crochet and are interested in something new, I mean, like I said, I can't speak more highly about how much I've enjoyed this issue of Interweave Crochet and how much I'm enjoying these patterns. They're very, very good patterns. So that's my something I've learned this week. Moving on to finished objects. These technically aren't in their final form because I will eventually knit with them, but I dyed yarn. So I'm going to put that in finished objects. Right? This is just fun and beautiful and natural. So I did some more natural dyeing. I told you guys in the last video that I was going to be going to a information sharing event, which was so much fun. It was at this place in Olympia, Washington, called Mearmer's Grove. It's a small little farm, and Heather and Catherine were hosting the event, and it was just so much fun. They had a great book on natural dyeing, and we just kind of sat and chat and had tea, and so we ended up dyeing with 2 natural dyes, cochineal, which produces this gorgeous pink, and it's actually a bug that is crushed up, and then the dye is derived out of the crushed up bug. So that's the cochineal, and then we dyed with blueberries. And I love the way that the blueberries turned out. And I have to say, the blueberry dye did not dye the same across everything. So I went with my mother-in-law, Lori, and then 2 of us were the only 2 that dyed yarn besides Heather. Everyone else that showed up for the event, they were dyeing fabric and clothes. Some people brought jackets, t-shirts, or just plain pieces of fabric that they were planning to work with later, and the dye took different to every object. It was really interesting to see how it turned out, because one gentleman that was there put his t-shirt in the cochineal and it turned out like hot pink, and someone else had a t-shirt that they put in there as well, and it turned out more of like a darker, deeper, richer magenta. So, and then with our yarn, we got this light pink. Now this yarn was not pre-mordanted, but it still took the dye. And these two were pre-mordanted. So you can see that it took the dye better and more consistent. But it was a lot of fun. And this one, Lori she did a dip dye. And I think she did such a good job. Because it blended so well. So she just dipped this half in the cochineal and then this half in the blueberries, and through the process she just slowly let the dye come up and like lowered it just a little bit. So there's this really nice, it's just a very beautiful, even blend between the two colors, and I think this is going to work up so beautifully. So I'm torn because I feel like these two should go together. They're all fingering weight, but this is a 2-ply fingering weight that was non-superwash. It got a little agitated. It's not felted together, but it is fuzzy. These are superwash and they are fine. But I kind of want to use this skein of yarn in the West Knits Speckle and Pop mystery knit along because it goes with my other colors. It's not 400 yards though. And so I'm concerned that I might not be able to use it because it's probably not enough yarn, because he called for 3 full skeins of yarn. Sometimes he writes his patterns where you need it all, sometimes he doesn't. So I don't know yet, but I love the way that these turned out. I'm excited to keep going forward in this natural dyeing and learning more. I actually have been like, with the dyeing with blueberries, I was like, wow, I never thought of that. And so now I'm like trying to collect natural things that are more readily available that could be dyed with later. I'm not sure if you guys watch the Fibertown podcast, but Emily dyed some of her Icelandic, I think it was Icelandic, handspun with marigolds. And I'm like, I have a ton of orange marigolds I just planted this year. They're not ready to be collected yet. Well, okay, so some of them died and I went to try to collect the shriveled little petals off, but I just got seeds, which I didn't even realize was how you get seeds. But so I have a whole bag of seeds now, which is good for next year, but it's not going to help me with dyeing. So I'm waiting until they bloom more because I don't want to take a bunch of the flowers and end up killing the plant. So I'm just going to wait because they're still kind of small. But I do have a hanging basket in my front yard that my dad's girlfriend gave us, and
Mommy, I want to hi, baby.
Come here. Hi, guys.
Hi.
You want to say hi?
Yeah.
Come here. Ooh. Hey, Emily. Did you dye this yarn? Did you help dye this yarn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Emily came with us to the knowledge sharing, and she did help dip dye this one. Oh, is that pretty too?
Yeah, I want that one.
That one? You show them that one?
This one is pretty.
It is pretty.
Yeah.
Did you help me spin that this morning?
Yeah, this is the bed. The mirror on the bed.
You help me spin the wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This piano is possible.
It is pretty yarn. Didn't you say it looked like penguin yarn?
Yeah, it's a penguin.
So Emily
I like
loves, that's the fiber that we
like
used
that
to
one.
make that one. So Emily loves all of my penguin soup fiber, or all my penguin soup yarn, and so to her, now pretty yarn is also known as penguin yarn.
High, and look at that. This one is like for it. Oh, the snip.
Okay, Emily. Well, thanks for coming and saying hi to everybody, but Mommy's got to keep telling them about all the things. So can you say bye?
Bye.
Bye! Okay, I don't remember what I was saying, so we're just going to move forward to my next finished object, which is a very, very cute little sweater. Look how cute this sweater is! So this was a test knit that I did for Chrissy, who hosts the Snappy Stitches podcast. I think her designs is, was it Chrissy Knits? I'll put it at the bottom of the screen or also link it in my show notes. The pattern's not out yet as far as I know, But I'll go ahead and share that in the Ravelry group when it is, and I'll probably mention it on the next podcast when it becomes available, because this is a must-have sweater. It's so cute. So I knit this using, oh yeah, so let's talk about the yarn for a second. So this is Splatter Dash 100% Superwash Merino from, it says jojoland.com, but I got this, I'll show you the tag. I got this fiber from the yarn shop that's right next to my other mother-in-law's house in California, Josh's mom, Melissa. So she's got she has a local yarn store within walking distance from her house. It's amazing. I don't remember the name of it, but I can put it on the screen. But I got this back when I was still pregnant with Jack. I originally got the yarn, and this is the body of the sweater is in this yarn. I got this yarn to make a Gramps sweater for him, but I ended up going with a different color. And the stripes of the sweater were knit using this Barocco Vintage, I don't see a color on it. Oh, color 5179. It's a brown, but it does have a label on there that says Knitter's Square, so I think that must be the name of the yarn shop that was in California, or is in California. Hopefully it's still there. But yeah, so the pattern. So this will be a pay-for pattern, I believe, and it's a really nice and easy to follow. I'm trying to find the right words to describe it. It's a nice pattern. It was easy to follow. It had a great layout. And it would be easy to customize if you wanted more stripes, less stripes, to add stripes, change colors. It's worked flat, so you work a front and a back, and flat sleeves, and then you seam the whole piece, which wasn't hard at all. And it's got a rolled neck collar and rolled sleeves. And what's really nice about the rolled sleeves is I accidentally knit my sleeves too long, but I can just continue rolling them up and it doesn't look any different. So I did really like that. And the nice wide neck collar is great for dressing toddlers because if you have toddlers, you know, sometimes getting them dressed can be a struggle. So that was really nice and easy to get on them. This is the 2T size, and I was really, really close to her measurements, so that's about it. It does fit my son, who sometimes fits into a 2T, as well as my daughter, who sometimes fits into a 2T. So it actually fits them both, which is great. I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. I want to reknit the pattern in a 4T, and so that Emily can have a larger size and Jack can primarily wear this one through this year and probably next year. The pattern is 2T up to size 10, so you do get a ton of sizes with your pattern. And I think, sorry, I really should have put my phone on silent and not vibrate. And I think I read somewhere that she was possibly thinking about making an adult version later, so that would be really cool because I would wear one. The seaming did take me a couple days, and I wouldn't be interested in seaming an adult size garment, but I would do it because I do like this pattern. And although seaming may not be everybody's favorite thing to do, it really does give structure to your garment, which is going to make it wear better and last longer. So you can see I seamed up the sides, doing my best to keep the stripes aligned. So having the stripes actually did help seam it to keep everything where I wanted it to be. It made sure there was no hole in the armpit. And seaming down the arms, because there is shaping, I did find that I struggled a little bit trying to keep it nice and even, but it worked out just fine. You can check out my armhole seams. Not bad. And in the back, these are, I believe, called set-in sleeves. But yeah, overall, like I said, I really liked this pattern, and I'm looking forward to knitting another one. It was a nice, for the most part, mindless knit, and because it's worsted weight, it was fast. I think if I didn't have so many other things like work and school, I would have finished it in just a couple days. So, but I do think I finished it within 7 or 8 days. which was pretty good. I'm pretty sure I was within her timeline, but I know when you sign up for a test knit, having had people test knit for me before, you always want to be like, okay, fast, hurry, I want to release the pattern. So I was trying to knit as fast as I could to help her out with that. So moving on to works in progress, I went crazy one morning and decided to start cutting and making bags. So this was also impromptu by my friend Lindsay. She like inspired the day by posting her really, really sad, unfortunate event on Facebook. She has cats that like to eat yarn, and she had her project in a drawstring bag in her craft room, but the door was open. And in the middle of the night, the cats got in there, and the next morning, everything was everywhere, and they had chewed up her project. And so I felt horrible, and she's like, yeah, my only zippered project bag has a broken zipper. And I was like, well, I already had some bags cut out that I hadn't even sewn, but I was like, I might as well just make a bunch, because I am going to be vending at some craft fairs coming up in the next couple months, and I was like, so I'll just make some, give some to her, sell some at the craft fairs, and then we'll see where that goes. So I'm in the progress of making the open wide zippered pouch by Noodlehead, which it's one of my go-to project bags. So I've made the bag, except it needs top stitching around the zipper and the little tab on the end. But it's mostly done. This one I actually messed up. This one just has a plain gray interior. Oh yeah, and I need to hand stitch the lining shut. This one I actually messed up when I put the interfacing on it. I put the interfacing on the lining instead of the exterior fabric, which is not a super big deal, but it makes the outer fabric look like it has no shape when it does. Like, it just looks like wrinkly, I guess is how I would describe it when it's sitting there. But the functionality of the interfacing is still there. The bags still stand up on their own. So, and I did use a mid-weight interfacing for these bags. But so I have that one. This one is the same progress along. This I actually have made a project bag before. I made a box bag, the ones with the long zippers that go all the way around, that I did for a swap. But I had leftover fabric, so made an open wide zipper pouch with purple. And then reaching way over here, I also have this one. And same thing, it just needs top stitching and the little tab on the end. I'm not super in love with the lining, I'm not super in love with the lining that I chose. I think it goes, but I don't know, maybe it was just too busy with the busy outside and the busy inside. I'm not sure. So, and because I haven't top stitched the fabric down yet, or even pressed it yet, the zipper is catching. So those are the three that I have at that stage, but I also have two more cut out that need to be done. The only reason I didn't sew them is because they need black thread. So those three I'm all stitching with white thread, but these ones I want to stitch with black thread, and these are actually going to be for the Halloween make-along giveaway. So one of the project bags that's going to be given away is this really, really cute trick-or-treating Frankenstein and Dracula, black cat, I think there's bats, and I'm going to line it with candy corn, right? I just thought that was the perfect combination. And he's going to get a black zipper. And it's going to be the same large open wide zipper bag. And then this one as well. This is one I had already cut out. And I'm going to line it with the stripes. So, and he's getting a black zipper as well. And I've made a box bag out of this one as well, which I actually kept. So I have a boxed project bag out of this exact same fabric, outside and lining. And this is actually another bag that I interfaced the lining by accident. So it will be like that other one where it looks a little wrinkly on the outside, but it's still functional. So, yeah, those are my works in progress. Moving on to current events. So, So the Podiversary giveaway a couple episodes ago, I never heard back. So I went ahead and drew again. So random number generator 1 through 11. It chose 8, which was, and I never know if I say this right, you know, I've read H.P. Lovecraft, but I don't know how to say it. Cthulhu. Cthulhu Loves Me one. And she's actually been watching the podcast for a while. So congratulations. You get either this hand-dyed skein of yarn or a project bag of your choice, which we can coordinate. It could be something I've already made, or, you know, I do have a stash of fabric that we can work something out. To include the type of bag. We can do an open wide zipper, we can do a box, we can do a drawstring, whatever. We can work it out. So just contact me and let me know what you'd like. You can write me on Ravelry or send me an email at mandobugcrafts@gmail.com. And so then we have the Halloween make-along going on, and I finally did get some stitching done on my Whacky Witches and Stitches. Oh, and I left my light on. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this before, but I like to use a book reading light while I stitch because it makes it easier to see the stitches, or at least I think it does, especially in the evening. Sometimes I find an overhead light casts too much shadow. So I've added a little owl and some clouds and some tombstones are in the works. I'm just mixing a bat and some little accent white squares, and then I'll be finished with this block. And I actually did the math. If I finish 1 block a week, I can complete this by Halloween. I'd like to think that's possible, but my crafty brain just wants to do all the things, and I think I would have to dedicate more time to stitching to try to complete that. And I'm not sure that's like on the top of my list of priorities. So it's a nice thought, but I'm not sure I'm actually going to do that. But I have enjoyed the relaxation that comes from the slow stitching. As long as I'm not like, I want to get this done. If I just enjoy the process, I have been enjoying it. And so also for current events, I am knitting along in the Maker's Mercantile Lorelei knit along, which uses a skein of Schmutzerella yarns and a skein of Fine Height. And it's so hard to show because I never know which is the top and the bottom. I think I'm showing this to you upside down. Let's try this way. That didn't work so well. I guess however I can show it to you works, right? So yeah, so this is the right side. Excuse me. So I've got this long swoopy garter section, and now I am working on the mosaic section, which it's really interesting because from back here this mosaic section is just stunning. But when you get up close, like really close, oh, maybe it just comes across better on camera, because that didn't really do anything. But I feel like sometimes when I look at it, it doesn't look like the mosaic pattern. It's definitely a pattern that looks best the further away from it that you are. Because when the first time I got a couple rows in, I was like, am I doing this right? Is this even look like the mosaic pattern? But it is, and it's really, really pretty. I have enough yarn after the mosaic to finish the shawl in white. There's a lace section. I know I have enough to finish it in white, but I really, really want to finish it in orange. I just don't know if I have enough orange. So once I finish the mosaic section, I'm going to weigh my yarn and see if there's any way to tell how much yarn it takes to knit the lace section and see if I can get away with it. If not, I may even possibly just knit that, like shorten it and just stop early if possible. I'll have to read ahead to figure that out. But I still have approximately 20 rows of the mosaic to go. So we'll see. But so far I'm loving it. It's unlike any other shawl that I have in my wardrobe, which is surprising because it's orange, but I don't have anything that's orange and white. And I don't have anything that's that light. I always go really neon concentrated or dark. So it's nice to have a little bit of variety, at least on the way. And so then I also decided to join the sock spackle that's being hosted by Stephanie of the Crafty Garden podcast and the So Perfect Pearls podcast. Her podcast is new to me, and I only got to watch a couple minutes of it before I was doing mom things. So I don't remember her name, but I'll link to everything in the show notes. But they're holding a sock spackle, which is a spin-along, knit-along. And that's what you saw Emily sharing earlier. And this guy is still very wet because we just finished spinning it this morning. So I have it was supposed to be a 4-ounce braid of 100% superwash BFL from Rocket String Creations. But when I weighed it, it was almost 5 ounces. Talk about generous. So it's a very long rainbow braid that I attempted my best possible way to split down the middle in half so I can spin two identical 50-gram balls to knit 2 at a time socks with. I have done this before for socks using Penguin Soup's a braid of fiber from her, and because of the way you split it and because of the inconsistency of spinning, it's near impossible to have matching striped socks, but they'll be near, and that's all that I want. So I did my best to split these in half. One does way more than the other. Not a big deal. I tried to, excuse me, I tried to strip a little bit of extra off of that one, and that's how I ended up with this fiber. And it was, I want to say it was almost 20 grams of fiber. And so I decided to go ahead and do like a sample spin of the fiber and see what I could get. So I just spun a single and then chain plied it on itself, shooting for a 3-ply fingering weight. And I don't know where my control card is. Yeah, that's a bummer because I made a control card where I kept some of my singles and just wrapped it around. Nope, not down there. I wrapped it around like a note card. I just cut slits and I wrapped it so you could see how thick or thin my singles were, and then I was going to wrap some of this finished sample yarn around the card as well to see the finished fingering weight yarn. It's, like I said, it's still wet, and I didn't weigh it before I washed it, so I don't know my weight to yardage ratio, and I'm going to wait for it to dry to even count the wraps per inch, but it looks like a good fingering sport weight in some areas yarn. It's going to be great for socks, and I'm happy with it. Because I split for this real thin strips off of the long ones, I have very short color repeats in this sample spin, but I think the way that these are split, I'm going to get the longer repeats of color that I'm hoping for. So I'm excited about that, but that is also in the works. So moving on to check it out. So there is a new crochet pattern out. I talked to you guys 2 videos ago about a crochet bag that I was testing, and that pattern has now been released. So the pattern is called Into the Woods by Kim Olsen. It's a pay-for pattern on Ravelry that uses a brand new yarn by Haiku called Woody. It's a cotton alpaca pulp yarn. So the alpaca tree is a relative to the banana tree. So it's a plant-based fiber. You still call it a fiber? I think so. But it's like a very rough type of material to work with, but it works great for bags. So the bag is awesome. I love it. Check it out. And then moving on to Let's Chat. So before I forget what I'm wearing, I haven't worn this shawl in a while, and you see that spot? I spilled coffee on it, so I'm gonna have to wash it. But this is the Doncaster shawl by Holli Dapp, who has the Now Craft in Tomes podcast, I believe it's called. And it's just a very simple shawl with a cute little cable detail border at the bottom. I don't remember if this is free or pay for. And I knit it using hand spun. And I believe it's one of the ones where you just knit until you run out of yarn. So, the hand spun was a braid of fiber from Gail's Art that was just amazing. Gail's Art, she has amazing fiber. And I think I mentioned before, the Rock and String Creations, it's just a dream to spin with. I've never spun such concentrated colors of fiber that draft that easily. Well, no, that's a lie. Knitty and Color, she also does a very, very good job. But there is a lot of fiber out there that's not as nice. So I like to really highlight the good people that I've worked with. I mean, of course, there's other great people out there that I haven't worked with their stuff yet. But Gail's Art, Rock and String Creations, Knitty and Color, Edgewood Garden Studio, those are like my big times. Well, and Penguin Soup, when she was dying, her stuff was really, really good too. So, tangent. This shawl, I love the shape because a lot of times the traditional triangular shawls, they aren't as long. So I can put this on, tuck in my ends, which I like to hide them, and then it's long. So I get a nice, like, very nice long look. And I love it. It tucks in nice to coats. If you don't like that triangle and you just like the loopies, it tucks in nice to coats. It's nice and cozy. It only took one skein of yarn. It's just a great pattern, and this is one of my favorite shawls. So that's what I'm wearing. Other than that, we've had a really busy couple 2 weeks. That's why I didn't podcast last week. We went to the Muirmers Grove Skill Exchange, which Olympia is a little bit of a drive for us. So it took a little while to get there and back. And a couple days later we went to the Washington State Fair, which is funny because it used to be the Puyallup Fair, and then a couple years ago it became the Washington State Fair. But when we were there, we kept hearing the Do the Puyallup song, so it was funny. It's like, you guys need to make up your mind. I think it just changed ownership. It sounds like it went from being owned by the city to owned by the state. So, of course, they wanted to change the name. But that was a lot of fun. Emily rode on the carousel, and that's all she talked about for the rest of the day. I want to ride the horsies. And Jack was barely tall enough, but they let us on to ride the choo-choo train. And the whole ride, Jack was in my lap going, choo-choo, choo-choo. So the kids had a lot of fun at the fair. And then after that, we just kind of got sick. And as you can tell, I'm still like coughing my way through it. I don't feel sick, but apparently something's making me cough. So we're getting over that, and yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really have anything else to say, but this episode's running long anyways. I need to get better about writing down things I want to chat about, because I forget. I get so excited about the crafts. I mean, that's why most of you are probably here anyways. That's why I'm here. So, but I'll slowly work on my Let's Chat section of my videos. But other than that, until next week, guys, happy crafting. Bye!